We then go to our aux sends, which are not necessarily before the EQ, because our post-fade aux sends are actually after the EQ and after the fader. Pre-send are, I'm pretty sure on this board, before the EQ. They're pre-EQ and pre-fader. So if I adjust the EQ, it shouldn't change it much in my monitors, or shouldn't change it at all in my monitors. Interestingly enough, there is a pre-post switch for aux 1 and 2. These are always post. What's it say? That's phase shift. Okay. The 3 and 4 are always post. We talked about pre and post. Any questions, speak up. 1 and 2 are switchable so that we could make those post fade also. We don't want to. That's interesting. Yeah, see, they're pushed down, except for that one. So we could make those pre-fade sends too. Let's say I'm doing some recording with this board instead of live with monitors, and I want a 4-track recording. I could send 4 different post-fader sends. Just another application. So these buttons should stay down so that we stay. Some of them are up. I'm not sure why. But so that we stay pre-fader. Okay? I can't read that. Old guy eyes. Hold on a second. I should just ask Josh what it says. Oh, I forgot. Mackie, it's deceiving. We not only have 4 aux sends, we actually have 5 and 6. So if I want to make these 2 knobs go out of aux 5 and 6 instead of 3 and 4, that's what that button's for. Those obviously are going to stay up because we don't use 5 and 6. Okay? So there are 4 capable post-fader sends just by shifting to 5 and 6. Again, something you use in a recording situation, not this live situation. Okay, EQ, we talked about high, mid, and low. Excuse me, high, mid, and low, and this is my frequency. So these are volume knobs, plus or minus, plus, minus, plus, minus, bass, plus or minus, and this picks the frequency of that mid control, so that slides it back and forth as opposed to raising or lowering. There's a low cut, which was actually pushed down on the wireless mic, which is a good thing. So anything under whatever that low cut frequency is, I don't know if I can see that too. Yeah, 75 hertz. So at 75 hertz, if I push this in, this will roll that off. If I have a lot of boominess, like I can't even do this, but sometimes when people talk into a microphone, their P's will pop and you'll get that boom, boom sound. You can push in the low cut and it will get rid of that boominess, that pop.
That's good to know.
His wireless is extremely sensitive. It's right here. So if you talk, and the funny thing is, I can't even do it. With him, it happens all the time. It just depends on how God creates us differently. You know? In his case, if he looks down at his Bible, his air is projected off the bottom of his mouth, and it'll bottom out the element in the mic. I can't even do it when I'm trying. I can't say P and make it happen because it's just the way God created me. So anyway, in his case, we've cut that low frequency. So in essence, when we talked about that EQ and that plus or minus bass control, we have an additional one on the end that will roll off that bottom end, and that's that button. Pan, again, allows us to send either to right or left if we were doing a stereo mix. and you had a stereo keyboard send where you had left and right, you'd pan, one channel to the right, the other channel to the left, so you get that stereo separation. Stereo is not, when you set up your home theater, your stereo system, you have an ideal listening position in the middle of the room, which allows you to hear both speakers equally, so that the different signals that we send to left and right give us that separation of the signal. So we get that effect, that movement effect, because we have all these seats spread out through a fairly wide room and fairly short depth. Nobody's in the ideal listening position. Everybody's either one side or the other. So we don't run a stereo system, we run the same signal out of both speakers, so everybody's hearing an equal mix, the same. And again, there's some blue tape here that somebody originally had set up as to how they were sending their signals, and I believe they've always kind of stayed there. You notice these are all kept fairly equal, so it's really irrelevant where we're sending, how we're sending. We could take everything, run it to the center, which would send to both left and right, push the left and right on everything, and it would have the same effect. It would just send everything directly to the left and right master. I don't want to change that right now, because with these being lower than unity gain, they're actually subtracting from the signal. So if we went straight to left and right, we would change our level settings. And then the solo button, which fires up the RUDE solo light. If you look in the manual, the description of that from Mackie is that light there flashing at you is very rude. So it is actually the rude solo light. They also had in their schematics, if you look, it'll show a little line off the side of the electronic schematic that says, take a right, go 3 miles, get to Jim's house. I mean, it was a feeble attempt at humor that Mackie used to do.
So what does that light do?
That tells you that you have a solo. If you've got all of these running, because these lights here double as a signal light. If I talk into this microphone, for example, you notice the signal light is on. If they're all on showing signal, and I've got the headphones on and I'm trying to listen to something here and I can't figure out why I'm still hearing this microphone, it's because the solo button's still pushed down. So it's basically a tattletale light that says, you still have a solo light on, dummy. Mm-hmm. And it's being rude about it. That's all.
And the purpose of the solo light is?
Purpose of the solo circuit is so that I can take headphones plug them in here, and let's say I've got the entire worship team playing along with everybody singing, and I want to know whose voice I'm hearing. I want to pick out a specific voice. I can solo this. It will mute everything else in the headphones except for this microphone. Mm-hmm. So I can say, oh, okay, that's, let's say I've got 3 voices. I've got Jane, Alice, and Hildegard are singing together, and they blend very well. But I want to adjust to mix. I'll actually take this, leave it on my shoulders, and put one on my ear, and I can listen to Jane's mic and go, okay, that's what Jane sounds like. Okay, that's what Hildegard sounds like, and whoever the other name was. I can listen to that mic also, and then take them off and say, okay, now I can pick out that particular voice, and I can mix those 3 to the appropriate amount that I want in the room. You solo it up. It also gives me the ability, by the way, aux 1 has a master control here. Aux 2 has a master control, which we don't use. But aux 1 being our monitors, this is the master for the monitors. So everything that I'm mixing or sending out to the monitors goes through this one master. He said he starts at straight up and down. If you look at straight up and down here, there's a U at the top, which is unity gain. I'm not adding or subtracting from that signal as it comes from here to there.
By monitors, you mean the stage monitors?
I mean the stage monitors,
Okay.
the folding back up onto the stage. So I can solo the monitors and hear the mix they're hearing. Okay? I can't hear the volume level they're hearing. Sound travels in a straight line. We talked about this right at the beginning, and it goes right to where we pointed. In that case, we're pointing it to the musician's ears. We moved Tammy's monitor over to right next to her so that she could hear what she was doing, what the rest of the group was doing, et cetera. The only way I can know what they're hearing on a volume level overall, I can tell mix by comparison, her voice versus keyboard versus guitar, but I can't hear volume level. I have to walk up there and listen. Granted, you can't do that in the middle of a church service. You can, but it looks a little obvious. If things are really, really, really severe, and this has probably only happened twice and 3 times in the history that I've been here, I've actually walked up and gone, okay, that's what I'm hearing. But you got to get up there when you're setting up or on a Wednesday night when they're practicing and know at these levels what they're hearing. The other thing I'd like to do eventually, if we do rework our monitor system and get a more efficient monitor system up there, you get a matching wedge and amp channel here, and you can solo what they're hearing in a wedge right here, so you can literally hear what they're hearing on stage.
So
That's
there-
ideally the
Excuse
situation.
me, there are 3 speakers up there, right?
There's 2.
Oh, 2, okay.
The two.
That's
the
an
two
amp,
little,
someone's amp up
Oh,
there.
all right.
Yeah. So by rights, it would be nice to have 4 up there, so each musician not has their own, but shares with one other person type of thing, and a 5th one here. And then you'd have 3 separate amp channels to cover that, because you don't want more than 2 speakers per amp channel, et cetera.
So when you're listening there in solo, you're hearing the net result of both those speakers?
You're hearing, in solo here, you're hearing what they're hearing minus the system processor, the amplifier, and the speaker. You're hearing it before you're even sending it out.
Okay, but for both speakers or for just?
Both speakers are on the
Both
same
speakers,
output
okay.
channel, yes, correct. They're on the same aux send. You get a good point in far more complicated stage setups. You go to a professional concert, they'll actually put a separate mixer. All the input signals are split, and a separate mixer up on the stage, and he will, off the side where you don't see him, he will only mix monitors, and many times you'll have 8, 10 different mixes, so that each musician hears what they want to hear. You know, drummer only wants to hear him and the bass guitar and maybe lead vocals. Backup vocals want to hear all the vocals. Guitarist wants to hear keyboard and his guitar and you know, that type of thing. So everybody has their own mix. We would never do that here. It's very complicated. You know, you could potentially have 2 different mixes. We still don't want it. It's not that big a room, that complicated a room, and that complicated a musician setup that you want to go to that. So we just do 1 monitor send. We also don't have somebody up there being able to hear what's going on. That guy sitting at that mixer with those 8 or 10 different outputs has his own monitor just like theirs, matching. So it has the same acoustic characteristics. And he can solo up each of those output channels and listen to what what the drummer is hearing, or he can listen to what the lead vocalist is hearing. And he hopefully knows what that lead vocalist wants and can mix according to that.